morning, good afternoon, good evening. Initially, the Zimbabwe government had announced that fuel would be purchased in US dollars. But they've since made a U-turn. Now they're saying you can purchase your fuel in ZiG. And what is even more interesting is that they fixed the price in ZiG as well as US dollars for a fixed period. This announcement is just saying that the price of diesel per liter will be 22.24 ZiG. That's the maximum price. And in US dollar, it will be $1.66. And these prices are for May 2024 based on the M1. That's the monetary system. And they will be effective up to the 4th of June 2024. This is a new development, Benjamin. What do you have to say to this one?
Good day to everybody. It is interesting because initially, like you said, the Reserve Bank governor had said that fuel will be sold in US dollars, but they have since taken back that, and now they are going to be selling in ZiG. But for me, and what I have heard, let me according to my research, what I have heard, what is happening on the streets is that actually this price is strictly for farmers who will be able to buy in ZiG. As we are going into the winter wheat season, and they will have to file and get approval from I think a board, and then they can go and get fuel in ZiG at participating outlets. I think it's petrol trade, and the rest of us have to make do with US. I think we know that previously we had prices also pegged in US and in RTGS, but all service stations were just operating using ZiG, using US dollars, sorry. So for now, what I've heard also on the street is there is nobody that is selling with the US dollar, that is selling with the ZiG. Everybody is still using the US dollar. So it will be interesting to see how this develops. Are we going to see, service stations actually taking the ZiG, or are we just going to see, the usual US dollar?
Yeah, I think what I find interesting in this one is it's one thing for them to fix the price in ZiG and US dollar. And from what I've read, the ZiG price of it is fixed. And usually the ZiG is the one that fluctuates. So if they pegged it on US dollars and then whatever is the exchange rate, you can pay in ZiG, that's fair enough. But if you're going to fix it in ZiG, then it means as the market, the ZiG's value starts to fall against the US dollar, the petrol price will not change. As they clearly states there in that statement, these prices are effective up to the 4th of June. That means for a whole month, the price is fixed. And we know that the value of the ZiG fluctuates a lot in that period. So we'll end up with a situation here where people, of course, would want to buy in ZiG, because if the ZiG on the open market or on the black market is losing its value relative to the US dollar, and yet at the petrol station, it's holding its value against the US dollar. And it makes sense for you to go and get your petrol in ZiG. So I think that is going to happen. And of course, the petrol owners have got to respond to that. And the only logical thing they will do is for them to insist that you pay in US dollar, or there's going to be a black market. You find you go at the garage and they'll say to you, sorry, we've run out of petrol. Because they would not want to sell at a loss. So this fixing of the price is just another backdoor control price of the petrol. And we've been down this road before. The minute you control the price of a particular commodity, two things happen. There'll be a shortage of that commodity, or an artificial shortage of that commodity, and then it starts trading on the black market. And the price of the black market is much higher than the control price. I think this is almost inevitable.
I mean, let's not talk as if it's something that is far away. The price of the ZiG on the black market is trading at $20 currently. So that would mean that if you have your US dollar and you go, on the black market and you change your US dollar into ZiG, you can purchase more fuel that way. So eventually you have to ask yourself, as a fuel, retailer, will I be able to cover my costs? Secondly, who is going to will I be able to get the US dollar from the banking, the banking channels or banking systems? Those are some of the fundamental questions that one has to ask. And for me, given the experience that I have seen, why most service providers, fuel service stations, why they were not selling in RTGS. I think if government was able to give them, money to go and procure more fuel, it wouldn't hurt them that much, because they'll still be profitable. But the fact that I think they have to go and look for their own, cash, US dollars, to go and import this fuel to come in, it meant that they had to also rely on the black market to go and get. So it's not favorable right now, because right now, if the the ZiG is trading as 1:20, that would mean petrol will be just maybe, I think, $1.05, or less than that, if you change the money on the black market. So I don't see it profitable. That's why I think it's just there to show that you can trade. Whoever wants to trade in ZiG, you have that option. We have created a window for you. You can use this option, but it's willing seller, willing buyer again. And knowing the market, nobody will want to sell in ZiG.
Well, in this particular case, otherwise we are just back to square one, which is what the authorities had originally said, that you could buy your fuel in US dollars. Because when they said that, the bus operators started saying, we are not going to charge our clients in ZiG. They've got to pay us in US dollars, because when we want to go to the garage will not accept the local currency. And so they were forced to make a U-turn on that and say, no, okay, from now on you can buy your fuel in ZiG. And they to talk these fuel operators to accept that. But I think now that they've accepted it, like I said, this is a backdoor control of prices, because now they fix the price of fuel in ZiG. Instead of saying, okay, it will be so much in US dollars, but you can pay in ZiG, which would then be subject to the fluctuation. But by fixing it in ZiG as well, this is the maximum price, remember, in ZiG that can be paid. It means for the whole year, for the whole month, it will be fixed in ZiG. And whereas the ZiG, when it starts losing its value against the US dollar, the fuel will still sell at the maximum ZiG price. So in this case, you will end up with a situation, as we're seeing in that screen, where motorists will find this shortage of fuel. They'll start queuing, and invariably, they will be developing a parallel black market for fuel, where you will be paying a lot more than the official price, and there's no control quality. One of the things that tend to happen in those situations is people buying in jerry cans and so forth and selling on the black market, and some of these dealers would not pay attention to such details as, for instance, that the jerry can that has been used to buy diesel cannot be used to buy petrol, because the two fuels are totally different. And the minute you start mixing them, it doesn't do your car engine any good at all. And some of these dealers have done even worse things to maximize their profit. So at the end of the day, the ordinary person, the motorist, pays. And the price control that they imposed does not achieve the desired effect. As for the companies that procure fuel, in the past, they have gone to the Reserve Bank with the local currency and purchased the US dollar for the sake of procuring fuel. And they've purchased it at the official exchange rate, which is nowhere near the black market exchange rate. And yet, when they've gone out to buy the fuel, in some cases, they've not used all the money to buy the fuel, because they make even more money if they take that US dollar onto the black market and sell it. And so it has been reported in the past, for instance, you find some of the fuel procurement companies will send their lorry all the way to Mozambique, wherever they're supposed to pick up the fuel. And they'll declare that they brought in so many thousand liters of fuel, when in reality, it didn't buy any fuel at all. And so for the sake of the books, it's shown that the country has got so many liters of fuel brought in, and towards meeting the demand. But in reality, of course, they didn't bring up any fuel, and that creates the shortage we're talking about. So this black market system, although the fuel procurement companies themselves may appear to be disadvantaged, more often than not, in fact, they are making a killing. But at the end of the day, the real big loser is the ordinary motorist, because he's hit both ways. The control price only creates the shortage and the black market system, and he ultimately is the one who pays for it.
Yes, I agree with you. But to date, as we speak, no one is actually selling in ZiG, from what I understand. And previously, all service stations were supposed to put the US dollar, price for fuel per liter, and also the RTGS price per liter. But you find out that nobody was actually selling using the RTGS. It was strictly just US dollars. I'm sure if push comes to shove, you'll probably find out that the service, the petrol service stations will actually end up having two queues to say, the US dollar, you can come through this side, and the RTGS, you can come through this side, and so forth. It's going to be a confusing couple of days. So I think it's also one to see how it plays out. Will the service stations actually agree to start charging, in selling their fuel in ZiG? Which I don't think so. Probably they would want to play it by the ear first, to first find out how stable it is, given maybe give it a month or so, and then possibly switch. But as things stand, I mean, we are barely a month into it, and we started at 13 point. I'm not really sure of the commas there, but they're already running at 20, which is 1:20. So that's a massive drop in just few days. So I don't think anybody would be really willing to go into this venture with the ZiG, unless you can actually know that you can go to the auction system, or to the bank, and be able to cash in your ZiG for US, and your business continues. And like you said, you always find unscrupulous businesses who would then take the US from the change using the bank rate, and go and burn the money, uh, on the parallel market, and make a killing out of it. So yeah, that's the country that we live in, especially when you have money that is, as consumers that have very, very low confidence in it, they always try and get rid of it as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think this is just another complication that is being introduced in the already chaotic economic situation. Do I see it working out? This is not going to work out. I've said before that this is just another move by the government that has failed to produce the confidence necessary for economic stability. The truth of the matter is Zimbabwe will remain in this chaotic economic situation as long as we have a regime that is illegitimate. ZANU-PF rigged last year's elections. That is at the heart of the problem. This is a pariah state. And all they're trying to do is kia, trying to solve problems by creating other problems. Like squeezing a balloon. You squeeze it one end, and it also, of course, it bulges the other end, the other side. So this is not solving, this is not getting us anywhere. And we're just blundering from pillar to post. It is really unfair in the sense that the ordinary person is really the one at the core end of this political and economic chaos. Because it is the ordinary person who has got to worry about filling their car so that they could do whatever economic activities they've got to do. And if, like some of us, have had the experience of queuing for fuel, and they are told when you get to the pump, only get 10 liters, for instance. If you've got a trip where you need a full tank, it means you've got to queue, get 10 liters, put the car back in the queue, get another 10 liters. It could take you a whole week before you get a full tank. That's if you are lucky. And at this rate, it's a nightmare. Because garages will tell, oh, we've run out. Whereas in reality, you can see in some cases that they are selling on the black market. People are coming with jerry cans and they buy fuel that way. The reason why they're selling on the black market is that they will get more. As the petrol owner, you know if you sell it on the black market, you charge a lot more. Why would you want to sell it at a cheaper rate? So it's a nightmare for the ordinary person. And I think this is something that can be avoided. Zimbabwe, we need to sort out our failed political system. And until we do that, this chaos will continue.
Yeah, hello. Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we are at a stage where our leaders are just trying to patch up holes that are putting a patch on top of another patch. I think it's done. I don't know why they're continuously thinking that printing a new note is the solution. We never had bonds. We were taught of bonds, and we were assured that the bond was the sure thing. We left the bond. We went into RTGS, something that was never heard of, and surely it failed again. It's just the same cycle over and over again. And unfortunately, so they're okay. But you and I have to go and hustle, different prices, artificial shortages, and queuing. Used to come back, But I'm sure the US dollar will prevail at the end of the day. you can simply just walk in. Like I said, there would probably be two lines: one for those that really want to queue and wait up for the RTGS, or the one for the ZiG, or the ones that would just want to go and use the US dollar and get it over and done with. That's how I see is, once that happens, I'm sure government will step in again and start forcing, you know, people to start selling in this year. Then we are really in trouble. So yeah, I think it's one for to play by the ear and just see what happens in the upcoming days. Will the petrol service stations start, issuing fuel with ZiG, or it's just going to be strictly US as usual?
Well, I'll give my closing remarks and offer a solution, a way out of this economic and political crisis. The solution at the present moment, the ideal one, would be that Zimbabwe should hold fresh elections and clear this case of pariah state. But that is not, even if it could happen, it's not going to solve anything. At the present moment, the opposition has imploded and it's in a chaotic state. And therefore, then to hold elections immediately will only be ZANU-PF competing against itself. We should prepare for 2028. We should prepare in the sense that we should have democratic reforms so that 2028 we finally have free, fair, and credible elections. What we need to do is implement the democratic reforms to ensure elections are free, fair, and credible. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. SADC in 2018 came up with a list of 23 reform recommendations. If those were implemented, Zimbabwe would have free, fair, and credible elections. We still have the report, and we can implement those. I don't see ZANU-PF implementing the reforms. I don't see the little opposition that there is at the moment pressurizing ZANU-PF to implement reforms. And in fact, the opposition that is emerging, which is Chamisa reforming his party, is as keen as ever to participate in elections without even one reform implemented. He will once again promise the people that he will win rigged elections. He has got strategies of winning rigged elections. And he is calling card, hashtag God is in it. I think the people of Zimbabwe have got to wake up to this reality that it is absolutely pointless participating in flawed elections, knowing that ZANU-PF is rigging them, knowing that by participating we're giving ZANU-PF legitimacy. So the best thing we can do is that the people of Zimbabwe should state very clearly that without reforms, they're not going to participate in these flawed elections. And I believe SADC last year alone, after they come up with a damning report saying those elections were flawed, they would have denied ZANU-PF legitimacy if the people had not participated. So the best strategy at the moment is make it abundantly clear that we are not participating in these flawed elections until the reforms are implemented. It's as simple as that. That is the solution. And it can be implemented if people show the political will and the vision to follow it. It is not a complicated plan. is not rocket science. It's a simple plan. And it's a workable plan. Participating, being conned into participating flawed elections is one of the greatest weakness of the Zimbabwe electorate. We have got to cure ourselves of that. We've got to be a lot smarter now if we want to get out of this mess. Thank you very much. I don't know whether Benjamin would want to give your closing remarks.
Well, I think you've touched on everything. I agree with your solution, and I don't see a way out. Continuously doing. I mean, we've been here. I'm sure by now a lot of us are now tired of the same outcome and the hurt and and so forth. And we have the solution. We once did it and it worked out. And we had the GNU and we had, some stability of some sort. I don't know why we ended up going back to our default settings. Straight after that, we are back into doing the same thing, queuing up, casting ballots that are meaningless. And at the end of the day, we sit and we watch the results and we listen to results that just bring hurt to us. I don't know why we would love to prolong our suffering, yet we have a solution. And I think when it comes to the recommendations that SADC has given us, I think it's black and white. And I wonder why no opposition has ever asked to say, why do you bring in observer missions, to come and observe? And once they've observed and they've recommended things that you need to change, those are corrections. Corrections are needed. You need to do your corrections before you do new work. That's what we knew at school. So why are the corrections not done 44 years after? So it's kind of depressing at the end of the day that we have an opposition that is so keen on winning seats for themselves and bluffing people into believing they would perform a miracle, which I don't see. I mean, it's just depressing. So I think the ball is in our court to finally end our own suffering. We have a solution, and it's us taking the hard way. But I think it's the easiest way because we only suffer once. We pressurize ZANU into implementing the reforms that are there already. It's just like you said, it's just a matter of just saying, here is the book, or here is the minutes. Let us do what is written here. And then we have a starting point. I think that is our only solution. And until we realize that, we would be with this Kia formation for a very, very long time. Thank you.
Well, my closing remark would be just to clarify why the last GNU failed to bring about lasting change. It's because the MDC failed to implement even one token democratic reform. Robert Mugabe, who was the president then, bribed Morgan Tsvangirai and company with the comforts, the trappings of high office, including the ministerial cars, the generous salaries and allowances, and for Morgan Tsvangirai himself, the US $4 million mansion. And the opposition completely forgot about the reforms. Not even one token reform was implemented during the last GNU. And that is why we are where we are today. And these same guys, ever since the failed GNU, they've been participating in these flawed elections out of greed, knowing fully well that participating will only give ZANU-PF legitimacy. And again, I emphasize the point. That is where our weakness as the electorate has been. We have not been wide awake to see what is happening on the stage, on the political stage, and we've paid dearly for it. And I think we need to wake up and realize what's going on here. I've said on this platform and many other platforms that Triple C, ever since the GNU, MDC Triple C, have been ZANU-PF Team B in all but name. They've been playing for Team A to win and for Team A to have political legitimacy. And this is why there's not been any meaningful change. And this is why the electorate, the ball is in the court of the electorate. If you really want serious political change, it is the electorate who have got to change. ZANU-PF won't reform itself out of office. Triple C have given up on democratic reforms, only participating for the sake of a share of the spoils of power. That is the truth. Thank you very much, Benjamin. And to the listeners, thank you very much for joining us. And I hope you'll join us again tomorrow. And have a good day.
Thank you. Good day.